Welcome to my home. This is Kimberly Sogi, and I'd like to lead you today in a sense and savor walk, or a savoring joy walk. This is traditionally the land of the Algonquin peoples who have not yet conceded this land to the Canadian government. But we are guests here, and we are grateful to the Algonquin people for being guardians of this land for so many generations before we arrived. It's a very beautiful Canadian shield with pink granite beneath our feet, with coniferous forests in a canopy above our heads. And I read recently that northern forests are as helpful for generating oxygen for the atmosphere, for carbon sinks, as the rainforests of South America. So in this practice, let's begin today with just gathering our mind. Most of the practice will be focusing out on sensations in contact with the five senses in the natural world. But because our minds are so frequently caught up in another space, neither in our bodies, experiencing the aliveness of our bodies, nor in contact with the five senses in this beautiful natural world in which we live, but caught up in thought or fantasy or problem solving. But let's just begin by taking hold of our minds very gently with friendliness, and feel feet standing on the earth. In my case, on the recent snowfall in Gatineau, Quebec. So when we practice in snow, often our hands are encased, our bodies are encased in warm gear, but this highlights our contact with other senses. That can be feet contacting the snow, the cold on one's cheeks, tingling on fingertips from the inside as the body works to support us and keep us warm. And we're going to just gather the attention into breath. So feeling the cool air on the inhale. And the contrast with the air we inhale with the warmth of the exhale. So 4 breaths here. And maybe already beginning to feel the mind gather and settle. And if not, just noticing that too, the quality of the mind here and now. So expanding the awareness of the breath to sensations in the body as we begin to move mindfully, feeling the feet on the earth, awareness of the breath, and moving through this snowy landscape, feeling our contact with the earth through our feet. Lifting, swinging, placing, and shifting. I'm wearing my snowshoes right now, so I can feel the odd sensation of the snowshoes changing the shape of my contact with the earth. And just letting the mind rest in the sensation of movement in the body. and letting the rhythm of movement just be natural. Trusting the body that it knows how to move through these natural landscapes. So there's no need to manipulate, no need to walk in a certain way, or even at a certain pace, or with any particular direction. Feeling the support of the breath, support of the body moving through nature. Maybe noticing how the sense in the body is shifting as we begin to move. The muscles begin to warm up. The breath shifts to support our movement. And just feeling all of that from the inside. Shifting from what may be our habitual mode of viewing life from the outside in that space between the body and the world, getting caught up in thought. And we're practicing something very different. We're bringing the mind back to the here and now, to this present moment, the only place where life happens. Savoring the movement of the body, the breath, the connection with the earth. And as we've gathered our attention into the body, into movement through this beautiful landscape, let's now bring appreciation into the five senses connected with this living body of the earth. So the purpose of this practice is just to awaken ourselves to the resources of joy, of life, that are always here, always available to us, to kind of wash the heart-mind with the quality of joy. And this is not manufactured. If you don't experience what you think of as joy, that's okay too. The only thing we're doing is opening up awareness to the five senses in this practice. So wherever you are, whether it's indoors or outdoors, I invite you now just to offer your full attention to what you see around you. And in this cultivation of the quality of joy in this practice, we allow ourselves to see what engages this sense of sight and to really give ourselves over to it, to open to what naturally brings out appreciation, joy, a sense of savoring what's around us. So just allow yourself to be led by what draws your sense of sight. And then I invite you to stop and let yourself be totally absorbed. Give yourself over to the delight, the sparkle on the snow, patterns of light, the textures, whether of snow or brick.
Just gone up on the ground.
Appreciating perhaps the uniqueness of each snowflake, conditioned by the clouds in which they formed, the seed crystal on which they first attached, the temperature. Different temperatures determine whether they form a plate or column pattern. The music of their formation, that they cycle through column plate, in pattern as the temperatures change. And by the saturation, the environment, all of this beauty, all the conditions that come together. Savoring the sense of sight. Noticing perhaps, just allowing the mind to rest in the five senses in nature might affect the feeling in the body. And shifting now to a sense of sound, maybe hearing the sound of snow squeaking, crunching beneath the feet, sound of distant voices of other travelers on this path. And maybe most rare of all, the sound of silence here in the winter forest. cultivating the mind of winter. Sound of one's own breath supporting us from the moment we were first born until the moment we fully return to this living earth. And the sound for us northerners of clothing. It keeps us warm, putting on a mitten. Letting oneself be connected to that hum of silence. And staying attuned to silences even. We move through this space. Growing up Canadian, I'm aware of different temperatures and to the snow sounding differently. The temperature's dropping a bit now, so perhaps you can hear the squeak of the snow. Now let's shift our attention to the touch sense. Feeling perhaps the clothes touching the body to begin with. But noticing texture. Prints of animals moving through the snow. The texture of the balsam. The changing textures as we move off the beaten path. and the glistening texture of the snow. Savoring, noticing the joy that comes. Allowing yourself to be absorbed by whatever draws you. Now shifting attention to taste. Maybe letting the rain run on your face if you're somewhere rainy. Letting the snowflakes land on your tongue. Tasting the snow. Or even the contrast when we move from the feeling of the cold mouth when we're out in the snow to that first taste of hot chocolate. The contrast in temperature, the bitterness of the cocoa. But noticing here, even here there's a taste. Nature is full of its own textures and movements, visual arts, flavors. Finally, just bringing our awareness to the sense of smell. Noticing perhaps the cold air at the rim of the nostrils. And hear the freshness of the forest air, even in winter. As we continue to walk, just being aware of which sense tends to predominate for you. Are you drawn to sight, to touch, to taste, to hearing? To smell? The smell of the beautiful balsams when we rub them between our fingers. noticing how the body feels, allowing oneself just to be totally given over to the senses. The heart mind washed with loving kindness, with joy. As we allow our attention to be absorbed in the gifts that nature is always strewing before us. And in the last few minutes of practice, as you move through this landscape, I invite you just to open to all five senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. Fully sense and savor, and allow joy to be awakened within you. So appreciating that you've taken this time to cultivate this quality of joy in yourself. Appreciating all the conditions that brought you here to this practice. And appreciating the quality of awakening within you, as well as the resources around us for nurturing the qualities of loving kindness, joy, delight. May this practice continue to be of benefit to you and all those around you. Namaste. And just coming back to the breath for the last few moments of practice.